And you might even get to see the video of an airbag deploying if I've done something wrong, so stay tuned. Hello guys, and welcome to this VolksWizard video, which today is a workshop video because we're going to fit the bigger DSG paddles from the Mk8 Golf R to my Mk8 Golf GTI Clubsport. Yes, finally, after nearly 20 years of those stumpy DSG paddles, Volkswagen have realised a bigger paddle is actually much nicer to use. At the moment, it's only available on the Mk8 Golf R, but that's probably because it's got drift mode. It's very hard to change gear with the steering wheel turned on those stumpy little paddles, so they give us the bigger paddle. The good news is you can buy these paddles from Volkswagen. They're about £250 the pair, which I don't think is too bad. And even though I haven't got drift mode on my Clubsport, I just think they're so much nicer to use and to look at that I really want them on my car. Today I'm going to show you how to fit them. It's not the easiest job in the world because you do have to take the airbag out and dismantle the steering wheel to some degree, but I think it's possible, and the good news is you don't need an awful lot of tools. I'll show you that in a sec. Somebody did tell me that on Mk7 cars you can actually just take the paddle bit off and leave the mechanism in the steering wheel and swap that for a bigger paddle. I don't think that's possible on these cars because the pins that you pull out to do that are not very easily accessed. I could be wrong, but I just want to do the job properly anyway, and that's to fit the complete paddle mechanism. And it's actually not too bad a job. I've never done this before on a Mk8. I've actually never done it on a Mk7. This is the first time I've taken the steering wheel apart on a car later than a Mk6, and it's actually the same or even easier than some of those cars. So let's show you the parts first then. So these are the shifters. This is how you would see them in the car. There's a pin there that you can on earlier cars just pull out, and that'll release the paddle from the mechanism, but you can't get on that. There's no way you can do that now, let alone when it's on the steering wheel. So we're having to fit the whole mechanism. You can see it screws in into that, and there's one little just 2-wire loom into the steering wheel. That's the other side there. Part numbers, I'm not sure which is left and right, you probably want both anyway, but 5H09515277T9 and 5H09515287T9. Tools needed, well, this little screwdriver is needed to get the airbag off the steering wheel, and it's also needed to unlock that loom bit from the steering wheel as well. And then this is just a T20 driver, Torx driver, for undoing the screw that retains that into the steering wheel. Okay, let me just show you where we are now. This is probably the most dismantled the car will be. So we've pulled this trim up here to get access to the airbag retaining springs in the back of the steering wheel. You don't actually need to pull this up, but it's so easy, you can do it with your fingers, that it's worth doing because it gives you a bit more room to work the airbag out. We've popped the airbag out, it's over there. We've then been left with this silver trim in the steering wheel. Now this pushes into the steering wheel. It's not screwed in, it's just those studs there that kind of get swallowed up by the rubber holes here. So you have to carefully ease that out with your fingers, which isn't as bad as it sounds, to be honest. I started here and I could get this one out and then it kind of works out from there, but just be very gentle because it's not going to be particularly elastic, this silver, and you don't want to damage it. Once you've got that out, you then have access to the paddles. So there is the T20 screw retaining it, and that's the plug. Now that's a bit fiddly to undo, that's why you need the little flat blade screwdriver, and on it you can see there's a little clip that locks it into place that you just have to flick down and then it comes out. So we're at the point now where I'm just going to undo the paddle with the T20 driver, and we'll pop that out. Okay, that feels pretty loose. And out she comes. So that's the old paddle, and that is actually on the driver's side. So that's the one with the off on it. So there's that one. So yeah, quite a bit different. That's the way around, yeah. Luckily I was worried they won't fit, but you can see the mounting mechanism is the same, so we just need to feed that through and screw it in. I've done very little research on this. I'm making lots of assumptions that this is really just Volkswagen you know, keeping things as standard as possible. So Put that in there, and yeah, there we go. I think that looks pretty cool. Okay, well, paddle number one is now in place there. You can see it screws in place and it's nice and secure. So that's, yeah, pretty good. Seems to fit just like the other one did. A little tip is to start the thread with the screw before you put it on the car, because there's no actual thread in the new paddle. It's just a bit of plastic and you're cutting a new thread when you screw it in. And it's very hard to do it when it's on the car like this. So just start it off the car and then it's much easier to fit it on the car. So yeah, I'm happy with that. So we've got one more to do just down there and then start putting it all back together. Okay, we've got two paddles in place now and it's looking very good. So there's the downshift one, there the upshift one. They're on the right way around, aren't they? Yep, that's good. No real difference with the other shifter, apart from the fact the plug goes into the steering wheel trim where there are two other plugs. It sits in the middle of three plugs, but apart from that, you just pop it undone in the same way as the other one. So very carefully undo the lock on it and pull it out. And then, yeah, undo it and screw the new one in place. So what I need to do now, in theory, doesn't need any tools. I need to push the trim back into the steering wheel so you can see it's sitting proud now. Probably best not doing that while I'm holding a camera. And then the airbag just clips in. So you can see the spring mechanism here that holds it in place. So it's these springs that you push down to release the airbag one side at a time. But as I say, because it's built in a factory, it's a mass-produced car, it's much easier to assemble than it is to dismantle cars like this. So this should really take just a few minutes, but I'm going to be really careful just to make sure everything's tip top, because if I get something wrong here, it could cost a lot of money to put it right. Okay guys, this is the airbag module and it's really nothing to be afraid of. Obviously take reasonable precautions with it, but I wouldn't worry too much. You should really disconnect your battery when you're working on airbags, but I'm not sure everybody does, and with a modern car you need to be careful you're not going to cause a problem elsewhere. So it's up to you, but yeah, just be extra careful. So this has got two plugs. One is for purely the airbag, which is the yellow one. That goes into the black connector there, and there's another one there, which I'm not sure what that's for. It could be horn or something. That goes into a connector that's just by the silver trim on the left hand side of the steering wheel. Hopefully you can see it there. It's yeah, just next to that little white label to the left of that. So I would probably plug the black one in first and then the airbag, and then it just pushes into place. Obviously check the wiring loom sits correctly in the steering wheel, because you will have maybe dislodged it on this side just here. But hopefully next time you see me it should be all back in place and working correctly. Okay, that's looking very good. So as suspected, it pushes into place really easily. On the Mk8, the horn is live even with the ignition off, which is kind of handy if someone's going to drive into you. So just be wary, you might trigger that when you're testing it, but everything looks good, everything fits right, and that's just because it's designed to be pushed into place very quickly in a factory. The only thing left to do now is the upper steering column cowling, which you didn't have to remove, but it just gives you a bit more freedom when you're undoing the steering wheel airbag springs. And it's so easy. It's just push it in and it just pops off. So there you go, one side in. That's it. Okay, well, I haven't got my key on me. Maybe I have. If so, without any prompting, I'll start the car up now and just make sure everything works. And you might even get to see the video of an airbag deploying if I've done something wrong, so stay tuned. Nope, no warnings. Apart from my parking sensors are packed up, probably. Shut the door. No. Yeah, that's just my parking sensors playing up. It does that about once a week, which we'll come to when I do a 2-month, 2,000 mile summary of my ownership of this car. So, can we test them out? I suppose we can test them out quickly on the driveway here with me holding a camera. Actually guys, it's a bit of a stupid idea to test them on this site because you have to get a bit of speed to be able to change gear anyway. So join me in a few minutes on a proper road and we'll see what these Mk8 Golf R paddle shifters really feel like. Okay guys, first drive in my Mk8 Golf GTI Clubsport with the extended Mk8 Golf R paddle shifters, and even when you're driving sedately and not even changing gear, they still add to the cabin ambience a lot. They've got a lovely little ridge on them where your fingers just sit even when you're not using them, and that just makes the car feel a lot more special. And that's really important with the GTI because they come from humble stock, and anything to make them stand out from like an R-Line can be no bad thing. They also look really cool. The steering wheel looks like more like one from a Lamborghini. Okay, they are plastic, admittedly, but then to put it into perspective, if you bought just aluminium paddles without the mechanism, just the actual bit you touch from Racing Line, they're just under £200 for the Mk7 7.5. For this, you get the genuine parts, you get the shifting mechanism as well, and they're just like £250, and they shouldn't invalidate your warranty, but I don't know, I can't guarantee that, but you know, they're a genuine part. But most importantly, they have a functional benefit because even though we haven't got drift mode in this car, you do change gear when you've got some lock applied, like now. And on a twisty road, you can find that you're doing that a lot. You don't do it so much in a manual car because the clutch and stuff can upset the balance of the car, but DSG is so smooth, it doesn't matter when you change gear because you don't feel it. So it's just nice to have a little bit more paddle to play with. So we'll turn in now, and then before we straighten up, into fourth. And I guess because we've got shorter gears in the Clubsport, you do find yourself needing to change gear a little bit more. So still with a bit of lock on, into fifth then, and then into fourth to turn in, and then we can get into fifth early now. And it just makes the car a little bit more interactive, a little bit more engaging, and it wasn't bad before. This car does go around corners so well, my GoPro falls off. Anyway guys, I hope you've enjoyed this Volkswizard workshop video. If you have, as ever, please give it a thumbs up. Please do comment, please do share, and as ever, please do subscribe. Thanks to everybody who subscribed. We made it to 30,000 a couple of weeks ago, and that does mean a lot. So yeah, big thanks guys for all your support, and yeah, see you very soon.